Hey everybody, back with another Gorf arcade repair video here. We've been testing various boards in my previous videos, the ROM boards and the DRAM boards. The next thing we're going to do is test these game boards here. So I'm going to do some basic testing on the bench here, but I think to really test it, because I don't feel like wiring up the volume to an amp and the controls and all that stuff, is I probably will just move these and test them in the cabinet. The key thing is the speech chip here, as well as the two custom IOs. The one in X3 location right here is 100% required. You won't get stuff working on the board unless this one's working. And then X2 I think supports the sound. But I already tested this one, and one of the customs is bad, and I'll show that. The other thing that an update from the last video is I did end up wiring up RGB connector. So I got my video coming out. This connector here is ground, 12 volts, -5, +5, and then your red with like chroma or something, and blue chroma, and then you have your green with the sync or something like that, and it comes into this RGB interface board that gets power, obviously, amplifies the signal most likely, and then breaks out the sync from the green and puts out regular RGB with composite sync. So I made the little adapter, so that's hooked up. This is my working set, and I'm just going to show you that it's working, hopefully. And there's our Gorf. Much easier to read and more clear than how I had it before with just the composite video signal, black and white kind of setup. So this is a lot more legible as far as reading and visualizing any issues. Now my game board, probably even with that one custom, I don't think this custom's bad, but I bet there's something with one of the counters that's causing that small graphics glitch right there. So I might even look at troubleshooting my own board to resolve that little graphics glitch there. But that's what we're doing. 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 game board repairs. And then we'll probably move on to testing and repairing some pattern boards. And then after that, we'll do the CPU board. So we'll see how much we get done in this video. Alright, so this first board I'm going to test. I actually already did test it, and I tested the two customs. I think I just mentioned X2 is the one that, no, X3 is the one that does the most. So like literally X2 is just doing the second audio channel. I don't think it does anything else. X3 covers the watchdog. It drives all the controls that are on on this connector J1. So like your left, right, up, down, trigger, stuff like that. It also, no, that doesn't control. It has part of the audio that drives the speech chip as well, or interacts with the speech chip somehow. But so this one is definitely the most important, and that's why when I'm testing it, I usually just leave one chip in X3 and test it one by one, because if it's good in X3, it's going to be good in X2. But even though this is only driving audio, if this chip is messed up, I've seen it where it's putting out junk data on the data bus, because the data bus is multiplexed. And this thing, if it's not behaving correctly, it could jack up your game, because it could be sticking stuff onto the data bus when it shouldn't be, for example. So I'm just going to plug it in. I haven't cleaned it at all as an example, or just not as an example, but just as information. And also it looks like there's some damage on the audio pins. So on J2, pin 1 and 2 are your two audio channels, and pin 3 I think is your ground. And so the fact that that's all jacked up probably means that the amp got blown out or something, I bet, whatever game this was in. So we just connect my little connector here. Make sure it's wired up correctly. There we go. and we'll see if we actually get it to boot. And what we're really doing is testing this, but potentially some other graphics issues potentially, because the stars in background also come from this board here. And we're resetting. So that's not good. I thought this... Oh, you know what? I must have tested this chip in a different different game board, because I have a check mark on it. Maybe I tested it in my game board. Interesting. So that would leave you to believe that maybe that chip isn't working correctly. Oh, you know what? What's going on with JU1 jumper is cut. I think that JU1 jumper might be cocktail. I can't remember. I've covered that before. I've researched that before, but I can't remember. But the board is definitely resetting, or watchdog. I have it on the bench, and I powered up my oscilloscope, and the watchdog actually comes in on pin U21. 8, 9, 10 is the output. 11 is the input. 8, 9, 10 is the output. So yeah, now it's watchdogging. Get my scope off of it. Started watchdogging. It was working for a second. Power it off. We might have some counter issues. There we go. So now it booted, but you see the lines on the ends there, which kind of indicates potentially some of these counters. Whoop, and just start watchdogging again. I'm wondering if some of these counters are bad. I'm just kind of probing around here. Interesting. I took off the support just so I could have fuller access. And if you're that's the nice thing is, yeah, it is kind of a pain in the butt to troubleshoot these, but if it's the big cards, you can put the cards in any slot, and so you just put it in this front-facing slot. If it's a game board, or if it's a ROM board, or if it's a pattern board, or if it's the CPU board, you just put it in this slot, and then you have full access to probe around on it. You just can't do that with the DRAM cards. Yeah, see, it's not happy. One of the things I'm going to do is, I believe this chip is fine, but I'm going to put it in my working board just to verify this chip is good, so we can kind of eliminate it as being part of the problem. And then see, look, just started working again. Maybe even replace these sockets, because I can see some discoloration on inside there. I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna. I need to Dremel the connectors and stuff like that too, or replace them. So I'm thinking about how much cleaning I want to do on the board. The board's not that dirty, honestly. See, now it's working. Let me look at my scope. See, I have activity on the watchdog line, which is weird. You can see that. 8, 9, 10. I mean, the watchdog, is that normal that the watchdog is barking like that? Yeah, the chip U21 is working correctly because it should be the inverse. 10 is the inverse of 11. But it is definitely... Something is... I'm going to put this chip in my working board and see what the behavior is. Custom in my board, and yep, I thought it was working, but it seems like it's struggling. I'm going to take it out and clean all the chip legs, Dremel the chip legs, and see if that makes a difference, because I know my board works. And it's kind of doing the same behavior, kind of just flaking out a little bit. So, alright, on my board it's working, as you can see there. I just cleaned the legs a little bit more, and it seems to be working. So let's come to pin 10. 8, 9, 10 of U21. And yeah, it is supposed to be having activity. You can kind of see it down there. Very, very small. But I guess, yeah, that's right, because the watchdog is activity. It's not that it's not a reset line. It's you know, it's creating activity, and it's probably the CPU board that's actually monitoring that there's activity on that watchdog line, and if not, then reset stuff. Sorry, my hand's shaking a little bit, but seems okay on my game board. I think I will go ahead and proactively replace those sockets, I guess. I hate replacing sockets, but if I have some double wipes, I'll replace it with those and go from there, I guess. Probably make better contact with the chip legs and stuff. I might actually soak this chip in some toilet bowl cleaner and see if I can really get those legs really clean. Tarnex isn't going to do anything because I don't think they're not. I think they're not silver or gold. They're like tin or something. So Tarnex isn't going to do anything. Before I did that, I put my custom IO chip, in the test board, the board we're working on, and it seems to be working fine, minus the counter issues that we see there, as an example. So yeah, it's definitely the chip legs. So I might just try to, I don't know if I want to do a socket on it or not. Seems like it's working fine. So I might, yeah, I want to get his chip legs stable, and then we're going to look at these counters, I think. Alright, I replaced one of the sockets, and I also put this chip in toilet bowl cleaner, let it soak for a couple minutes, and then brushed it off, and then put some de-oxid on it. Not that I needed the de-oxid on it, but maybe it'll help protect it a little bit. And so we'll see if this works. Let me stick that in, and this is the questionable board. I also removed and tried to clean up that burnt little spot with the audio there. I'm going to have to replace those 3 pins, at least those 3 pins, if not more. We'll see. But I got that out and cleaned up a little bit. Doesn't look too bad on the underside. Part of the through hole and is gone, but I'll still be able to make good contact with that ground, not a problem. Alright, got it in there. Clean the card edge. Chips in right. Helps if I hook up some video. Or it helps if I put the camera on what I'm doing too. I can't see jack crap. Alright. Bam. Working. Minus the issues which I think are counter related. Can we get that focused? Yeah, so definitely going to probably go ahead and replace this other one socket as well, just in case. But cleaning the chip legs is probably the biggest difference that it made. You just want to make sure, like, it's the simple things usually, I mean, like power, good contact, make sure your legs are looking correct and stuff. See, it looks good. So that custom, I believe, is working correctly as far as I can tell. Obviously we don't know because it also involves the controls as well, and some audio stuff. But for the most part, if it's good in X2, X3, we're good to go, I think, usually. It's been my experience. So let me look at these counters, and then we'll I'll replace this socket here off camera and come back, and we'll start testing other chips, and then get this board into a cabinet to test the sound and other stuff. Tedious work. So I have the socket replaced in X2, and I have the suspect chip, and I had it marked with an X because I had previously tested in my board. Cleaned it though with toilet bowl cleaner, and with a nice new socket, maybe double wipe, maybe it'll be better. Let's see. Oh, no, it's resetting. Yeah, see. That chip is not good. And that's the behavior you get right there. Let me let it run for a little bit. I'll come back and see if behavior changes after it heats up a little bit or something. Alright. Pin 17 is reset. And what's weird is it's like, I don't even have a foreign language ROM in there, and it's like Spiel, Bended, I don't know what's going on there. There it goes, it just reset. Yeah. Something is jacked up with this chip, and legs are clean, socket's clean, so that means that chip is most likely bad, so that sucks. Right, my battery's running low, but I'm going to spare you from testing all these chips. I'm grabbing the IO customs out of all the boards we're going to test. There's at least another one that's working, so that's good news. And let me see if there's anything, indicators here. No, I don't know if there's any indicators, but that one's working, so we're good. So one check mark, hopefully that one works, and I'm not going to show you them all. I'm just going to test them all, and then we'll start testing the boards and repairing the boards. All right, quick skip ahead because I'm wrapping up for tonight. Out of 6 custom IOs, we got 5 that seem to work, basically, by testing them in only X3 of a working board. Then I put in this board here, and I had no video. So there's no video on this board. We got some small graphic issues on this board, which I think is related to the counters for like the 3rd, 4th time I mentioned it. And then this board is dirty. Put the chips back into the board that they came from. They were from this board, which is dirty. As you can see, I did Dremel. There's a lot of oxidation on the connectors, but I Dremeled just the video connector, plugged it in, boom, works. And it doesn't look like it has any of those counter issues. The star field looks correct and stuff like that, because the star field is generated on here, and I think that's why sometimes you get that small graphics issue caused by the game board anyway. So yeah, so that's, I'm gonna wrap that up tonight. I gotta think of what I want to do next. I think I'm gonna troubleshoot the graphics on this and the video out on this, and kind of get the game boards hopefully done, and then I'll probably test other boards and stuff. Alright, back at it. Cleaned up that board and wired up some sound, at least to one channel. So this is actually, I don't know what board this was, but it was one that was, I think, fully working anyway. It has 2 custom chips working. It did not have a speech chip that was working. But anyway, what I did, I'll turn this down just a little bit, is I just wired up my amp from my PVM, which I have right here, and speaker, okay, pin 1 right here is audio 1, goes to the X3 chip and controls speech, fire, and explosion sounds. So it gets multiplexed with this output of the speech chip, and then it comes into that audio line, goes out to pin 1. I have a mono amplifier here, and I like just testing them one at a time anyway. So the way we can test that is actually by coining up. Let me turn it back up a little bit. So we're on speech 1, just to see if the speech chip works. We'll coin up, which I think is right there. And then we can start a game.
You cannot escape the Gorf robots.
And we should be able to get fire going as well. An explosion. But the speech is obviously not as loud.
Another enemy ship destroyed. By Dust, Space Cadet. I am the Dorfian Empire.
Nice. And so if I move it to line 2, and then we'll just let the attract mode, there will be a sounds and attract mode while I wait for the sound to come on. JU1 jumper is for cocktail mode. That's why you kind of see this one must have been in a cocktail, because it was usually it's pulled out in a upright. And JU2, if you don't want speech, you jumper that. Otherwise you'll have the speech. So yeah, like I was saying, there's an audio line coming from X3 and an audio line from X2. And this is the other audio line, so this is coming from X2, so we know it's working. You don't get the explosion sound. Maybe in attract, I can't remember. But I'm only using one, channel at a time here. And to me, that's good enough to know that it actually, the sound is working correctly. And I'm glad I can test that on my bench, actually. We can put it in test mode. That's this line right there. And you get the little pattern there, which looks like this. So we have, coin switch 1, coin switch 2, test switch, so 3. So that's coin switch 1, 2, test switch is activated. And then, what do we got after that? Slam, player 1, player 2, jumper 1, jumper 2, and then you go down to the next one. It just kind of rebooted, but 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this is up, down, left, right, and fire. Up, down, left, right, and fire. These aren't used. Those two aren't used. This one is, I bet if jumper 2 was connected, that would be activated, but since jumper 2 is the speech bit. And then these are all the dip switches. So there's 8 dip switches and only 5 is up right there for 3 bases. So what I can do is basically just test these one by one and see that's up, down, left, right, fire right there, and then up, down, left, fire, whatever. You get the idea. So I know all the inputs are working. So this game board is probably working. The only thing I can't test is driving the lamps and the coin counters, which are these connections right here. So I'll have to do that in the game. Otherwise, both sound channels work. And I'm going to go ahead and, since I know the speech chip is being activated correctly, I will go ahead and test this speech chip, but I think this one's bad. And then I have one more speech chip to test besides that. So we just need to coin up. Listen to that noise. So it's trying to get some sound out of the speech chip, but it's not, getting any sound, obviously. So I know the chip is bad because this is a working board. We just had the other speech chip in there. It was working fine. So I don't know. I might do some more research, but I don't think there's anything you can do. Like, that just means the speech chip is bad, and they're not cheap to replace and very hard to find. So that's unfortunate. Right, I have another speech chip in there. I just find it different. I think I kept the volume the same, but each one has a little bit different sound.
Push a player button.
That's just interesting to me.
Survival is impossible. Space Cadet.
This one actually sounds better, I think, than the other one. Or I have it turned up louder, I'm not sure. After we get killed, we should hear something.
Your end draws near Space Cadet. Some galactic defender you are. Space Cadet. Got you. Space Cadet. Bad move. Space Cadet.
It could be the circuits that are...
Got you. Space Cadet. Too bad. Space Cadet. I am the Gorfian Empire.
Yeah, it could be the the chips that are feeding it. Maybe just like the timing is a little bit different or something. I'm not sure. But I do love listening to Gorf, or whatever his name is, that's talking.
Gorfians take your prisoners.
I've never even been able to hear that before. Like, it's interesting hearing it on the bench. Like, you can actually hear what the chip is saying, or what they programmed it to say.
Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, interesting.
Another enemy ship destroyed.
It'd be nice if the test mode actually allowed you to activate all the sounds.
Bad news. Space audit.
I just heard.
Some galactic defender you are. Space audit.
I just put in another chip, and you can tell it's whistling a little bit more, but it does say, "I am the Gorfian consciousness," or something like that.
Another enemy ship destroyed.
Another uninitiated destroyed?
Ha.
I don't know.
Some galactic defender you are. Space audit.
Just seems like this one's whistling a little bit more.
Sawdust. Space audit. Gorfians conquer another galaxy.
Oh, Gorfians conquer another galaxy. Okay. I might have to look it up. I'm sure it's on the internet of all the sayings he says, but I could have swore he said, "I am the Gorfian conscience," or something like that. I don't know. Something like that. But anyway, the good news is I actually have a spare non-working game board. It has non-working customs in it, but it had a working speech chip. So, yeah, it's good to hang on to stuff. You never know when another opportunity to have more boards comes along. And even though this has two bad customs, it has a good speech chip and maybe other parts that eventually we could use. I don't know. Cool. Alright, this is the one with the graphics issues, and typically those lines on the edges there is either U15 or U16, I think the 161s. And my logic comparator shows them all as bad on U16. And U15 looks fine. So I'm going to replace U16 and go from there. Alright, this replaced that LS161. And this thing was giving me some trouble booting occasionally as well. It looks like it's pretty solid now. You don't see those lines anymore. So yeah, whenever you see those lines, those squiggly lines on the edges like that, come check U15 and U16. Logic comparator obviously pointed it out right away, so super simple. Alright, back. Let me take a look at the CPU board. Oh, no, this other game board. This is actually my game board, but while I had the LS161 comparator set up, this is earlier in the video, I think you guys saw it. Like, there's a little bit of that vertical line on the very edges. It's very minor. It's, you probably wouldn't even notice it too much during gameplay, but now on this one looks like U15 is bad. If I can get it on there. Bam. See? U15 looks bad compared to this. And I bet if we look at it on a scope, I bet you wouldn't be able to tell. Where's my scope thing at? We'll hook up onto negative. And come to U15 pin 15. And we have a ripple carryout. Pin 14. 15. No, 14, 13. Let's see, that's 9, 10, 11, 12. I mean, nothing is indicating that it would be bad. Yeah, see? That's on U16. That's the ripple carryout on U15. And 14, 13. You would never think anything's bad, but it's enough of a difference that it's causing that. So let's go ahead and replace U15 and see if we can fix that one too. Alright, went ahead and replaced both of them, U15, because they were both the same chip. So I figured I would replace both of them just to be preventative, I guess. But you can see that that line down there is gone. So yeah, just, you know, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I pulled them out intact, so I'm going to test some of these 161s, the three 161s. I'm going to test them. I don't know how interesting this is to y'all, and I guess my furnace is kicking on. This is the suspect bad chip that was out of my board with just a small graphics issue. So one of the things you can do on the B&K or LNEC is you can step mode through it or loop test it, but we're just going to test it one time. And this one says it failed on test vector number 9. So past the first, like, there's like multiple test vectors. So you know, first one, second one, third one, fourth one, past all of them until it got to test vector 9, and then it was expecting high, and it read low on these, on pin 11, 12, 13. 11, 12, 13 did not read correctly, which was kind of interesting. And just to show that it's working, and it's kind of difficult, this is the one that pulled out of my board that was in good shape, or was not reporting bad on the comparator. So let's test that, and that one passed. And this is the one that was from the first board. Gotta make sure it's in there because the legs are short. And on the very first vector, it failed going to the ripple carryout. Now, on my other computer, I have my TL866. We're going to go to the 161. I guess I have to type in 74 161. And you can actually type auto find. Here it is right here. Going to put it in. If I can get it in there right. Alright. Test it. Alright, that one tested bad. So that was bad. And this one took to the 9th vector, I think, to test bad in the B&K. Do I have it in right? Yep. Alright. Says it passed fine. And if I hit auto find, it says it found 74 161. So the TL866, I guess, isn't doing multiple test vectors. It might be only doing one test vector. I have no idea. When I look at it, oh, if I hit, oh, all right, I'll put my working chip in here. Yeah, it's just one vector. See? So it's not as good. It's only testing one vector on the TL866. Dang. Alright, well. So there you go. The TL866 would not have found that chip to be bad, whereas my B&K found it to be bad because it tested multiple vectors on the 161. Right, we're going to get to some real troubleshooting here. So this is my board that is just resetting, or blank screen. You can see there's nothing on the screen. It's blank. I have my Rigel scope here we are going to probe our watchdog circuit right there, which is I think pin 32 or something, and it's just sitting there low. There's no activity there. And if I go to our reset pin, you see that's toggling. Our reset is toggling, so, and you can hear it actually in the, if I turn my volume up, you hear that little tuk, tuk. That's the board resetting. If I come to our clock, we have good clock there. But the fact that, you know, if I come to pin, I'm on U21, that's 8, 9, 10, 11. 8, 9, 10, 11. That comes the watchdog from X3. It's just low. And then we come to pin 10, it's just high. So U21, it seems like it's working correctly. I'm going to take this chip out and pull that watchdog out and seeing if there's activity there. Or something's on that line pulling it low or something. Right, I pulled pin 32 out of X3, which is the watchdog. I would expect it to have activity on it. The board's not resetting any longer. If I probe the reset pin, it's just high. So it's not resetting, but the watchdog's not doing anything. That should be an output. So something's not right, and it's not this chip, because we tested this chip in another board and it works correctly. So something's going on here. Okay, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to follow the schematic, but right here is X3, I think, with the watchdog, yeah. So initially I thought it was that watchdog gets fed to, I thought the watchdog got fed to U21. Oh yeah, it does, yeah. Watchdog, yes, you can't really see it, but it goes to U21. Pin 32 goes to U21, which is the watchdog. But that's not doing anything, so I was thinking that it has to be on the inbound side. And I guess what I could have done is actually, the clock looked good, so maybe what else could have been causing, you know, us not to get anything output here? I don't know. I was just on a hunch. I just started poking around and looking at some of these inputs here. Like starting with this 7M circuit, I looked at U23, it looked fine. I looked at the outputs of these 164s a little bit. I just poked out 2 of them and they looked okay. Then I was like just coming up here and looking at this serial, I think it's serial 0 and serial 1. I don't know exactly what they do, but I'm just hunting and pecking. And I came to this LS153, which I think has something to do with generating the video, but I don't see how the video line actually, well, this is an output here which feeds into these 161s. I don't know how does that impact, you know, the watchdog being generated. But when I came to this 153, I could see activity on pin 7 on the output, but nothing on pin 9. So I hooked up my logic comparator, and we'll turn it on real quick. There's my logic comparator, and sure enough, pin 9 is reading bad. So I'm thinking that might be the problem. I'm going to go ahead and, you never know 100%, but I'm pretty sure that is the problem, I would think. The 153. All right, I replaced the LS153. I still have my watchdog pulled out. Let's see if I get anything interesting here on pin 9. Oh, at least pin 9 is doing something now. So that's good. I don't see anything in my watchdog though. Reset is high. But nothing on my output of my watchdog. So we might have more than one bad chip. I'm not sure what the behavior is, but definitely have some output there. Pin 7 is real busy. Pin 9 barely busy, but at least it's doing something. So I guess that chip was bad. I was able to pull it out clean, so I might test it in my TTL just to make sure. Let me put this watchdog back in and see if that makes a difference. I've resorted to hunting and pecking, so I just tried U22, even though I saw activity on pins 8 and 9. It's showing up as bad on my comparator here, so let's look at pins 8 and 9 and just see. Yeah, I definitely have activity. And doesn't mean it's right, I guess. And then 5 and 6 for the other side. That's 5 and 6. U22. I don't know. That does feed U5. I'm pretty sure U22 feeds U5. They're kind of let me piggyback and see if we get something different. If you can see this, what I figured I would do is I would just start hunting and pecking and taking what's furthest from the left, coming from like the bus, like the data bus and address bus, and then left to right. So U22 is one of the first ones. And I saw activity on pins 8 and 9 and 5 and 6, but then I put the comparator on it, it looks bad. That does feed, I think, the selects of the multiplexer, the 153. And then that, you know, is generating the at least the stars and sparkles, which ties into the video, but I don't know. I still haven't figured this out. The other thing I noticed is on this side, for these MC14539Bs, whatever, pin 1 and pin 15, which is tied to, which is IORQ, IO request. It's not really doing anything, but I don't know if that's our problem or not. It's hard to tell because the game board's probably not running, so who knows. Alright, well, let me, I guess, replace U22. I might poke around a little bit more just to see if anything else is reading bad, but I tried a different chip, so I don't know if that's my problem or not. If I have a bad reference chip. Interesting. Maybe that is my problem. Wacky. Is it safe to do it this way with everything powered on? Yes, it is. Yeah, so this chip might be bad. My little reference chip there. So that one is testing good, and then there's another LS74 at U17, I think. Right there. That's looking good. And then there's another one at U4. I can get the thing on there right. U14, I mean. Being a pain in my butt. Yeah, that one looks fine too, damn. Well, did it just... Oh, that's weird. Because it's probably resetting or something. The U14 comes from address line 14 and 15. Where the heck's that go at? Looks like it goes to the speech chip. Yeah. Comes in here. Comes into that speech chip. Interesting. I don't know. I'm stuck. Right, I'm kind of messing around, poking and prodding, trying to figure out, get a clue. But basically working on my theory from left to right. So as inputs come in, I came to this U24 and I was probing the inputs, and address line 10 does not look good. Now on this is a LS367. My logic comparator shows it correct because based off of the inputs, the output of 9 is correct. But if I show you input 10 on my oscilloscope, oh god, alright, just move shit around, got too much stuff going on. Alright, what is that, pin 10, right? Let's see, 9. Yeah, the output is pin 9, and that's pin 10. Versus normal inputs, and I threw my piece of paper down. Let's see, the normal inputs are pin 2, pin 6, 2, 4, 6. All right, 2, 4, 6. 2. There's 2. That's the address line. I don't know what address line it is, but it's pin 2. It's one of the address lines coming from the CPU card. 3, 4, 5, 6, pin 6. Right? If I can hold it on there. There we go. Damn it. 7, 8, 10 is the input. Something is holding that damn input down, and I can't find it. I might just cut it. I don't know. Could this 367 be shorted on the input side? I don't know. All right, I replaced U24 because of that input on address line 11, and it's working. That was the issue. I have a jumper here between my watchdog and U21 pin 11 to carry it over, obviously, because you need that connected or else it'll go into reset, and I had that pin pulled. But let's look at U24 pin 10 now. That was our issue. And the crazy thing is I actually pulled the chip, intact, and tested it, and it tests fine in the BK864. It doesn't find anything wrong with that input pin for some reason. I don't know. Crazy. There is nothing between address line 11 and the bus, the card cage here, the back plane or whatever you want to call that thing. Oh my god. that thing was such a pain in the ass. It took me the better part of the day, probably 4 hours or more on and off, poking around, researching, looking at it. But it is working now. And I know, should we test the sound? Did I test the sound on this board? No, I didn't, because... Alright, let me come back and test the inputs to make sure everything else... Here we go.
Long live Gorf. I am the Gorfian consciousness.
I am the Gorfian consciousness. That's what I was trying to think of it, what it was saying before. Oh my gosh, it's working, thank God. I was probing around everywhere and I was focusing on outputs instead of the inputs, but I had the right idea. Start on the left, work to the right.
Galactic Defender, you are space cadet.
There we go, Gorf is working. I guess the explosion comes out both channels. That's interesting. I didn't know that. But yeah. Board's fully working. Alright guys, what did I do? I fixed at least 3 or 4. I don't know. I have to put the video together and I lost track, but seems like it's working. Let's end with some Gorf sounds.
Space cadet. Too bad, space cadet. You cannot escape the Gorfian robots.
There you go, guys. Can't escape Gorf being a pain in the ass to repair. That's it. Cheers.